Okay, guys, here goes the second round of the video here, continuing my argument that I started before, responding to the Goodman prompt. So I've laid out my thesis here. I have asserted pretty powerfully, I think, or hopefully in a fairly powerful way, that I believe Goodman is right, that we should not rush life's important rituals because it will be detrimental to our well-being. So now I'm going to build one body paragraph here, and this is kind of the same amount you do for, an assertion journal, one of these shorter, more limited arguments that we'll do in class a lot. It might be just one body paragraph of a longer essay if you were doing a timed write. That's as much as I'm going to crank out for you here. But just letting you know, length varies depending on the task and the time you're given. Um, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so I'm going to focus on my art paragraph. That was the one that I felt the best about, and so I'm going to put it here. And if you guys were writing this, I mean, it's sometimes best to leave your most powerful paragraph for last. The one that you feel like has the most oomph, that might be the one that you want to save for last so that you can make a really powerful final impression. I'm just going to put it here because I'm only using one body paragraph and I have a lot of examples that I could bring to bear here, or at least a couple of really good strong ones. So let's just kind of jump into it. Okay, here's my topic sentence. Remember, topic sentences have to correlate to your thesis. You can't just start with a random assertion that the reader is going to look at it and say, huh, I don't know why you're saying this. I don't know what this paragraph's going to be about. I don't know how this links to your thesis. So I'm going to try to make that link really clear. I'm going to say the act of creating and observing art, because I'm talking about both, is one that gives us deep emotional satisfaction. It's kind of like a universally true human thing. Creating art is something that just kind of feels good. It's good for our well-being. And I'll say it is a ritual which cannot be sped up without destroying what makes it worthwhile. Okay, so I'm trying to make that topic sentence tie back to my thesis. Like, this is one area we're going to explore, is the creating and observing of art, and how if we speed it up, like Goodman says, it's going to destroy the ritual. Okay, so I'm going to jump into a first example here. I had a couple of them. I'm going to go straight into this one, though, because I think it's kind of like historically my best one. The Japanese reflect this philosophy in their time-honored art of bonsai, in which small trees are carefully cultivated into artful forms. Just defining the term here in case someone doesn't know. I'm not going to go into a full history or anything, but just a quick definition can maybe help. Now, I need to talk about how this example reveals the importance of slowing things down. So I'm going to go a smidge further here. The process of training the tree, and maybe I'll talk about some of those things that make up that process. Wiring the branches, pruning the leaves, shaping the foliage. Notice that I have those all in parallel structure too, which creates a nice sense of unity, showing that these all are things that are required. It's a very intricate kind of task. So doing those things requires years of painstaking effort and attention. And it results in a beautiful final product. So I think I've done a decent job of explaining why, slowing it down results in something good. I might take it even just a little bit further here. I might say a rushed and reckless gardener, not sure if there's a better name for it, but we'll just say gardener, attempting to create fast perfection would, let's see, what can I say? Almost certainly create um, a an imperfect specimen and ruin the potential beauty, ruin its potential beauty. Through his haste. So pointing out the way that going really, really fast here, like it's very likely that doing so will create something that's far inferior. Okay, so that's one example that I've talked about a fair degree. Remember, it's not about the number of examples you use, it's about what you're able to say and do with them. Are you able to provide examples which are concrete and real and convincing, and then offer some thinking about them? I think I've offered some decent thinking about the benefits of going slowly and the drawbacks of going fast in this situation, so I'm going to move on. I'm going to transition into something different. The same careful and deliberate mindset is required from the observer of art. So since I'm shifting out of looking at making art and now I'm going into like just looking at it, I want to have a little transitional move here. And that transition might take more than just a word. I need a whole sentence here to kind of show I'm making a pretty drastic shift to a slightly different but related part of this topic. So I'm going to start talking about some personal experience of mine as an observer of art. My recent experiences, this is last year, but recent enough, at the famed Uffizi Gallery in Florence, Italy, showed the truth of this. So I'll start talking some specific things I've observed amidst literally thousands of priceless Renaissance pieces. Let's see here. How do I want to talk about this? Amidst literally thousands of priceless Renaissance pieces, one could see many patrons rushing through the halls and snapping photos for the sake of seeing it all, and often breezing past others who were clearly absorbed in one particular work or another. So just kind of pointing out there's this contrast here. Now I think I want to talk about this in a slightly different way, explain how this example highlights a problem of going too quickly. So I'll just add a little commentary here. I'll say it was a striking contrast, because it was, to see these people kind of like blasting through and selfieing themselves next to works by Botticelli and Michelangelo and so on. It was a striking contrast. And whose experience was more profound? I'm just going to pose a question to the reader here because it's worthy of discussion. I'm going to explore that. Clearly, to me, those who lingered and saw fewer pieces had the richer experience, because they took the time to appreciate the masterful workings of Botticelli and Leonardo's work, just pointing out a couple of the people who were there. Masterful workings of Botticelli's and Leonardo's efforts. I don't want to say working twice. They walked away with a deeper understanding and sense of pleasure than those who simply rushed their way through for the sake of saying that they'd been there. Which, come on, that's a lot of people who go to places like this and they stand next to the pretty thing, they take their picture, they say, I was there, they put it on Instagram, and they move on. So, about ready to start moving into the conclusion. Oh, hey, really fast, before I do that, I just noticed that I'm using that kind of structure I talked about the other day when we talked about warrants, where you follow through with the evidence with a statement that begins with because or since. It's a way of kind of explaining the logical process that you're following and saying, okay, here's why this evidence matters. Here's why it matters that some people went really slowly through the museum. Because they went slowly, they were able to take more from what they observed. That's why going slow matters. But I'm using that because structure to try to explain logically why my evidence proves something or how it links back to my claim. Okay, anyways, moving into my conclusion. And again, it's not the number of examples, it is how much you're able to do with them and the kind of depth in which you're able to explore them. If you have to choose between a couple of examples that you can explain really thoroughly and really show me in a good, strong, logical way how, hey, these concrete examples prove blank point, then that's much better than just a slew of examples that are just left kind of hanging there for the reader to figure out. So anyway, conclusion. Thus, it seems that the rituals surrounding our creation and consumption of art are the sort which we should not rush, lest we diminish their value for the sake of convenience. Or you know what? The sake of, I'll just say efficiency. Okay, so I'm trying to bring the paragraph to a close here by reminding the reader ultimately what was it that I was trying to prove. Okay, well, all these examples are working to prove that artwork, whether you're making it or just taking it in, is one area where Goodman is right. Okay, where it is true that slowing it down is going to lead to a far more rich and satisfying experience than what would be true if you went too fast. Now, could I have talked more examples? Absolutely. Could I continue writing this essay? Yeah, I could. But this is enough material, I think, A, to demonstrate how much you guys need to be creating for an assertion journal, and B, to give you an idea of the process you want to follow for the parts of a bigger essay. You know, this is just an intro and a body paragraph that would do for an assertion journal, but for a longer essay, then you'd probably keep going. You'd touch on some of those other points the way I touched on vacations and the making of meals, or whatever other points you wish to make. You could keep going and develop your essay, but using kind of the same process as I'm using here. Okay, well, I think that's about it, guys. I'm running up on the 15-minute mark again here, so now seems like as good a time as any to stop. I hope this was useful. Again, if you've been watching, make sure you email me with the secret code phrase so that you are eligible for a fabulous prize. And yeah, I hope this was helpful. I'll see you guys tomorrow.